è il Chief Technology Evangelist di NetApp, sul palco Matt Watts.
So I feel like people have set a high level of expectation for my speaking slot. Every time I go to a country and present and I introduce myself as the evangelist, I feel like I'm kind of setting a level of expectation, and then the local team somehow build it up further. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you in Milan. It has been way too long since I've been in here in Italy, so it really is wonderful to be back. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody. What a year it's been. It was interesting coming out of the sort of the COVID times, and I don't think any of us really knew what was next or what that next was going to look like. And I think it's taken a while for us to really get back to something that is, I think, more representative of what's going to be normal going forward. In January of this year, for me, it felt like someone just flicked a switch, because I hadn't traveled that much last year, and this year has been crazy. And it's wonderful to be back in front of people. I didn't realize how much I missed this. So thank you so much for being here and for being so welcoming to me today. So the title of this presentation is The Big Opportunity. I've always been an optimist. I will find the positive in any situation. And I think we have one right now. When you look back over the course of the last 20 or so years, there's always little technical innovations, and they're important. You need to lead those. But what I'm more interested in is the bigger trends. And when one of those happens, if you can find the right way to be involved, the right kind of opportunity for you in that wave, the opportunity for growth is dramatic. I joined NetApp, the storage company. I've been with NetApp. My beard wasn't grey when I joined NetApp, which will give you an idea of how long ago it was, nearly 18 years ago. And I joined a storage company, but it wasn't any storage company. There were a lot of storage companies back in this time period. So why NetApp? There was something different. NetApp didn't come into the storage industry and say, we're going to build a slightly better storage product. We came into the storage industry and said, the way that people have been doing this is wrong. That's not always completely true, but if you want to enter a market, the way to get yourself known is to start an argument. So we came into a market saying, this is not the future. These monolithic storage arrays, these sharks and all these technologies, this is not the way people will build technology in the future. Now, how long that future will take, that very much depends. But if you can find a way of entering a market with a different proposition, then you can find an opportunity to differentiate yourself and create growth. And that's what we did. We built a $2 billion business by coming into an established market and telling people there's another way. And then I think the next big wave was virtualization. And again, interesting time. I remember speaking to people who would say virtualization is the end of the hardware companies. And actually, it went the other way. There was one characteristic of virtualization that played into our strengths. You had to have shared storage. For the whole VMware, the whole virtualization thing to work, you had to have shared storage behind it. Now you start an argument. Whose is the best shared storage, block or file? And again, I think what NetApp did, and by the way, when I say NetApp, I mean all of us. I don't mean NetApp as a company, I mean our entire partner ecosystem. What we did very, very well was we were able to show people that in VMware environments, we were the best technology to use. And I remember people saying, NetApp LUNs aren't real LUNs. Do you remember some of these technical things? Well, guess what? You know, virtual machines weren't really virtual machines. They were files. It all played into our hands, and it gave us the second significant period of growth as an organization. Now we're in the third wave, which is cloud. And I have a bingo card I'll show to you in a second, but the cloud is changing and evolving as well. And what we've got to look for is, what is that changing into? What is it becoming? We have established ourselves in the cloud market with a $500 million business. In just over 4 years, we've taken a business from 0 to over $500 million in recurring revenue. That makes us one of the fastest growing cloud software companies in the world. Us, again. But the cloud is changing. But I do want to pick up on something. If you go back to maybe 2019, there was a lot of talk that was the end of data centers. You know, there was going to be no more on-premises business. Everything was going to be in the cloud. And I think we all responded to that because that's what we thought was likely to happen. The cloud was this unstoppable force. For a lot of different reasons, the cloud has accelerated, but it's not taking over. And I know a lot of NetApp's messaging may have felt very cloud, 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 cloud. I wanted my very first real slide to not be cloud and to say that on-premises and our on-premises business is as important as it has ever been, if not even more important now than it's ever been. And Roberto's going to do a wonderful talk around some of our announcements there. But what changed about cloud? Having been in the industry for as long as I have, which does feel like a very long time now, you get to witness the birth of something and how it changes over time. When we first started looking at cloud, I would go and meet with companies and ask them, what's your cloud strategy? And they would say, cloud first. You go, actually, that's not a strategy. What that is a mandate. So what is your strategy that will enable you to go cloud first? And they would say, Amazon. And again, I'd stop them and say, well, that's a destination. So you have a mandate with a destination, but what's your strategy that's going to enable you to do that? And it was about as quiet as it is in this room now when I would ask that question. Because mandates typically come down from above, and they don't always drive the best behavior. A lot of people looked for the easiest things to get rid of, the easiest things to move to the cloud, and moved them. They weren't the ones that were going to benefit from it. They were frequently the ones that would therefore cost more. So we saw this excitement of people, we're all going to the cloud. And then there was the realization of, wow, this is expensive. And that's okay if you're getting value. If you're paying a premium because it's giving you speed and agility and innovation, that's okay. But if you're paying a premium to do something the same as you did it before, that's not okay. So we saw this kind of in, then out, and what it meant was cloud first kind of exclamation. Cloud first as a sort of a mandate has become cloud first as a question. Should we go cloud first? And the answer to that question, it is okay for that answer to be no. And that's kind of where we've got to. So what's the next change looking like? Because we talk about cloud and private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. Let me give you my cloud. This is for all of your next conferences. This is my cloud bingo card, which, and believe me, all of these are actually a thing. At conferences and in analyst publications, I am coming across super cloud, hyper cloud, abstract cloud, meta cloud. just when you think marketing weren't done with the cloud terms, they come at us again. Now, whilst I'm being a little cynical putting this up, my job, our job, is to look behind it, to look, is there something happening here that we need to be thinking about? And the answer is yes. When you suddenly see terms like meta cloud, super cloud, hyper cloud, abstract cloud, forget the terms, but look behind them and say, are they all suggesting something is happening? Because if that number of terms come up from this number of different sources, maybe there's a thread, maybe there's something common behind all of this, and there is. And what it looks like is fascinating because it goes back to the kind of waves that we've seen of technology. How many of you remember the world before VMware, before virtualization? I ask this question so often, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room, sorry, I'm not going to admit my age, I'll keep my hand down. There's more people in this room that I'm sure remember a world before virtualization than just admitted to it. It was horrible. It was really, really horrible. Everybody was building stacks of technology for their application. And they were building the best stack of technology for their application. And then another team would do the same, and another team would do the same, and another team would do the same. And we ended up with lots of these technology stacks that were all the best ones for the application they were running, but they were all different. And they were expensive, and they were underutilized. And then we had to work out how do we secure them and protect them. And you could see the problems, and VMware came along initially with a very simple promise. We'll drive up the utilization. We'll reduce the costs. But that's not really the value VMware brought. VMware solved a lot of the complexity that we'd been building. With that image in your mind, let me tell you what the future looks like. It looks like this. In fact, I'll stand this side. We're going to have Amazon Cloud, Microsoft Cloud, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, on-premises technology. And people will choose the cloud and the application they want to use in that cloud because it's the best one to do what they want to do. And so will the next team, and the next team, and the next team. And a lot of those problems that VMware solved for us are coming back again. We've now got to think about how do we deal with the complexities of dealing with different clouds? How do we deal with different data management tools? Different ways to back up, to recover, to protect, to deal with compliance. We're locking data away in application silos in different clouds. We've got to deal with different security methods. I'm not saying that things aren't secure. I'm just saying you now have to think about security in a lot of different ways, both on premises and across different clouds. And this one is one of the biggest challenges. There is a huge lack of skills in the industry right now. We, as a tech industry, are fairly fortunate that we can typically get the skills that we need, but it's not easy. A lot of the times when we're interviewing people, they are interviewing us as much as we are them. Are we the kind of company they want to work for? I met the CIO. He isn't there now, but this was a few years ago, the CIO for Philips. And he won't mind me telling you this story. He was very open about it. And he said his biggest challenge is skills. He said, because all these young people come out of college and university with all the skills that he needs for different clouds. He said, and none of them want to come and work for a company that makes toothbrushes. They all want to go and work for the tech companies. So that limited pool of resources that we can get, in this world, we're then having to train them how to do storage and data management in Amazon, Microsoft, Google. We're training this limited pool of resources to do maintenance. And of course, the costs are spiraling. The latest estimate from IDC believes that about 35% of cloud spend is wasted. So that's the sort of numbers we're talking about. So I said about the big opportunity. This is our big opportunity. These opportunities do not come around very often. VMware have had theirs and are still riding off the back of it. We have ours because we solve for this. If you think about everything that we've been building, forget looking at each of the individual products. What if, and I have this conversation with customers, I can say to you, use any cloud you want. I don't care. And I'll give you one single way of dealing with storage, data, recovery, protection, encryption, compliance. Don't train 4 or 5 different people to do this 4 or 5 different ways. Train one way, ONTAP. And I'm native in the clouds. I'm not even asking you to buy third-party services. I'm saying if you make the right decision, you can use ONTAP for one single way of storing, protecting, and managing data across any cloud. What I can also do is give you one way to optimize the costs of your applications across any cloud. In fact, if you get that right, it funds the one underneath. And I can give you a single pane of glass so that you can understand what your entire environment looks like. I don't care what cloud you are using. I don't care what type of applications you are running. I don't care whether it's VMware, non-VMware, containerized, enterprise. I'll give you one way of dealing with all of these things, top and bottom, for any of those workloads. How big is this opportunity? VMware were valued at $71 billion. Do I think this presents an opportunity as big as that? Probably not. But what if it was 20% of that, 30% of that? That is massive. We're bringing simplicity. We're bringing savings. Those, you have to get those right. But then the other two that we have to get right are security and sustainability. For security, there is a successful cyber attack every 39 seconds. In 2025, they believe that cyber attacks will cost the US economy $10.5 trillion in one single year. That's how bad this is. And these are getting sophisticated, very sophisticated. And again, I'm going back to the big opportunity. Storage is your last line of defense. The way you secure environments now is multi-layered. You don't just secure the perimeter and some layers underneath it. You have to secure every layer. I believe that NetApp has the most secure storage platform of any vendor in the world today. And security should be data-centric. You should start with the data. So I think that further enhances our message. And then sustainability. I don't know how big a topic this is in your region right now. I know it's come up having spoken to David and Salvatore and Roberto. I am not Greta Thunberg. Fairly obviously, I would hope. So I am also not going to stand up here and preach to you. What I'm going to tell you is that there will be 3 reasons why companies will take sustainability seriously. And it will be these 3. People. I said there is a limited talent pool that we are all fighting for. That talent pool, especially the younger generation, they are interviewing us as much as we are interviewing them. Many of them want to work for companies that represent their values. If you as a company do not have a strong sustainability position, you do not represent many of the talent pool's values. So you already have a limited market, and now you limit yourself further. That will be one reason why it happens. The second will be profit. A huge amount of capital funding is now going to companies that have strong sustainability credentials. So it's board level. You won't get access to capital markets, to capital funding, if you don't have strong sustainability credentials. And the last one will be the planet. I'll be clear. I have my own opinion on this, and I'm not going to tell it to you. That's my opinion. I don't need to preach to you, even though I am an evangelist. What I will say is I would encourage all of you to do sustainability for one of these three reasons, because one of these three will be important to you and your company. And if you do it for one of these reasons, you will by default do it for the other two as well. It's now in the top 10 list of CEO priorities, and in fact, 20% say that it's top 5 priorities. Not only is it important, it gives you access to other budgets. People will spend more on solutions that are more sustainable. And that's what we're always looking for. People will spend more on solutions that are more secure. We have to be positioning our technology with these value adds, these extra kind of benefits that they have, because they're important to our customers, but they also create good opportunity for us. So how big's the problem? Last year, we shipped 1 zettabyte of storage into data centers, okay, which is roughly 1 billion terabytes annually. It's what we ship as an industry into data centers. At the moment, about 2% of the world's electricity is going into data centers. Now, the numbers are very hard to find because different countries measure them differently. So you may look at that and say, I don't believe it. Okay, let me give you one I do know for a fact. In Ireland, Ireland is the first region that Amazon, Microsoft, and Google went into. It's 14%, 1-4. 14% of their total electricity supply is now powering data centers. The estimates are, over the next 5 or 6 years, it will go from 2 to maybe 8% of the world's electricity. Again, we can look at this and say, well, so what? Storage, again, looking out, it's about 20% of data center power at the moment, forecast to grow anywhere up to 38%. 2% of the world's electricity going to data centers, anything up to 38% of that powering storage. Again, so what? 68% of the data we create and store is a gigantic landfill of garbage that we never, ever use again after we've created it. In fact, to give you a comparison, the 68% of data that we create today and never, ever use again, the storage that is sat on currently creates more CO2 emissions than the entire airline industry does. We don't hold them up as the bastion for a clean and sustainable future. And a lot of this will push to the cloud. A lot of people will look at the cloud as being a big part of the answer. The cloud providers, you have to be a little bit careful, but they're doing the right things. Very efficient data centers, trying to use renewables. It's different in different regions, so just be aware of that. But that will be a big answer to the problem. So it, again, will push people to the cloud. So there's lots that we can do. If you get the storage and services right, be more efficient with the way you store and manage data. Tier to the cloud, back up to the cloud. That's a great first step. Let's use Cloud Data Sense as a way of finding that 68% of data so we can make better decisions about what we do with this landscape of data that we've got. Most companies have no idea what their unstructured data actually is. And we have the answer to that. Let's go beyond it. There's a lot of digital waste inside the infrastructure. Let's go and find that as well. And then when you do get to the cloud, Werner Vogels, CTO for Amazon, says very clearly, Amazon are responsible for building a sustainable cloud. You are responsible for the sustainability in how you use it. So when we get there, we still have to be conscious of the resources that we're consuming. And that's what the whole portfolio has been building towards. I haven't mentioned, in fact, I've mentioned one product. I mentioned Cloud Data Sense. I haven't stood up here and talked to you about CVO and CVS and CDS, and because that's not the story. That's the component of the story. What I am finding is when you have that conversation about the world we're moving towards is very similar to one that we've come from, that is resonating. And if you add on security and sustainability as discussions within that, that is incredibly powerful. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you today and spending some time with you. I hope some of what I've been saying has been useful. I'll leave you with one ask. Whenever I do one of these events, the first thing I'll do when I walk off stage is think about what shouldn't I have said. There's usually quite a lot of those things. I reflect back and think I should never have said that. But I'll also think about what would I do differently next time. Because personally, this event for me is an opportunity to share with you, but also to be better for the next time I present. I want to ask you the same thing. We really do thank you and appreciate you being here. It means so much to us. But if you leave here and do nothing, why did you come? So that's my ask. Think of one thing you'll do because you were here at this event today. I don't care what it is. I'd hope it was business, but maybe it's something in your personal life. But at some point in the future, you'll do that one thing. And at that point, you'll look back on this event and you'll think, that was a really good use of my time. And that's the only reason we do this stuff. Thank you very much indeed.